Welcome to the May 13th, 2020 meeting of the Town of Southampton Conservation Board. In accordance with the Governor's Executive Order 202.1, we will be proceeding differently from our typical meetings. Until further notice, all of the board's meetings will be held remotely via video conference. We ask the public to continually check the town's website for updates and new information. Applicants and their representatives will be participating via Zoom, which is being moderated by CTV. Charles Perkin will be muting and holding the speakers in a virtual waiting room until it is their time to give testimony before the board. As a reminder, we ask that the applicants and their agents please state their name and address for the record. The link to participate in this meeting via Zoom can be found on the town's website. This meeting is also being live streamed on the town's website. If you do not wish to speak at the live meeting, but you would like to submit comments for the public record, the link to submit comments can also be found on the town's website. Board members who must recuse themselves from any application will state so on the record and will be removed from the meeting until the end of the discussion and vote on the application. Finally, in accordance with the governor's order, this meeting will be recorded and transcribed and will be made available to the public. I'll now invite you to join together as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And nobody listened to Charlie.
You could do that in your chairs next time.
Don't stand.
I'll stand.
Let's begin with a roll call. So for the record, we'll have the record showing who is attending the meeting. I'll begin as chair, Harry Ludlow.
Tom Rickenback, board member.
George Hine, board member.
Jeremiah Collins, board member.
Michael Tessitore, board member.
So we don't have sunshine right now.
So I'm actually looking for the agenda. And okay, I found the agenda. So the first order of business is for the acceptance of the February 26, 2020 and March 11th, 2020 meeting minutes as written and or amended. Now, as I recall, Karina, you're there. We had an issue earlier for the February 26th meeting because we failed to have a quorum for a couple of meetings there. Is that right? Or
That's true.
so do you have before you who's eligible to vote on those minutes?
I don't have any.
I am not.
Okay, so we have one.
Unless you
two-
do them single, because I was out on the 11th.
We will do them singly.
Then I can help you out on the 26th of February, sir.
Okay. Does any other board member need to recuse themselves on either of those meeting dates?
No.
I was absent.
Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we have a quorum then for each of those meetings. So let's begin by someone make a motion, please, to accept the February 26, 2020 meeting minutes as written or amended.
So moved.
All in favor? And what we're going to have to do now is everybody's going to have to vote independently. So we'll just go around and state your name for the record and the vote. Harry Ludlow, approve.
Tom Rickenback, approve.
George Hine, approved.
And Algieri approved.
Jeremiah Collins, abstain.
Mike Tessitore, approve.
And now is there a motion for the March 11th meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
And I'm getting a delayed response because I see lips moving and no noise. Just help me out here. Was a motion made?
Tom made
Yeah.
the motion, I second it.
All in favor? Harry Ludlow, approve.
Tom Rickenback, approve.
George Hine, approved.
Jeremiah Collins, abstain.
Mike Tessitore, abstain.
Did we get 4 there? Tom, did you vote?
Yes, I did. We need Ann.
You need Ann.
Ann.
I approve. And Algieri approved.
That's an approval.
Little issue with Ann's video. She's like Max Headroom back there.
Did you hear?
Okay.
That's an approval from Ann.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, there's a delayed response on yours, and don't know just why that is. Okay, so let's move on with the rest of the agenda. The administrative wetland permits are in your packets for your information. Resolution of conditional approval. Lillian A020012. Lillian Barrios Paoli and Ana Luisa Oliveira. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolve that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Lillian Barrios Paoli and Ana Luisa Oliveira for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
We have to go around again just like before. Harry Ludlow, approve.
Tom Rickenback, approve.
George Hine, approved.
Jeremiah Collins, approved.
Mike Tessitore, approve.
And Algieri approved.
And your vocals are not coming across.
I got it.
Ann
Okay.
approves. Ann approves.
Okay, so let's just go right down the meeting as it's printed on the agenda. The next is preliminary review of secret determination, A 020015, Bonnie Corrin.
Good afternoon, Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This is an application that has been filed in order to gain approval to undertake residential improvements at an existing developed property. The applicant is seeking a wetlands permit in order to demolish and replace the existing pool as well as the associated deck. They're looking to significantly reconfigure the driveway. They're also planning extensive accessory improvements landward of the residents. As you can see by the survey and the aerial photograph, this property is characterized by a bulkhead. The trustees, the bulkhead was failing, so the Board of Trustees issued a permit to replace that bulkhead. When I completed the site inspection, the work was underway on that bulkhead reconstruction. I had recommended to the applicant that they establish a covenanted, naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer extending 50 feet landward of the bulkhead in order to mitigate potential adverse wetland impacts. I'm happy to say that the applicant has since come back with a revised survey showing that recommended buffer. They've also provided an acceptable revegetation plan, as the buffer area is currently characterized by lawn. The existing lawn is going to be removed and replaced with native plants. The project plans as currently proposed do meet the standards for issuance of a wetlands permit, and we do have sufficient information to make a determination on the application. As such, recommending that the hearing requirement be waived.
Motion to waive the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor, excuse me, all in favor to waive the public hearing, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Hine, aye.
Jeremiah Collins?
Mike Tessitore, aye.
Next.
Aye.
That's an aye from Ann.
The next application is A190130 Stephen E. Summer, and the applicant requests a postponement. Is there a motion to postpone?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback,
George
aye.
Hine, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
The next is A19068 LWF Enterprises LLC.
As indicated by the visual, this application relates to a property located at 40 Shinnecock Road in the hamlet of East Quogue. The property is bulkheaded and contains town-regulated tidal wetlands. The application has been filed in order to legalize the redevelopment of this property. The Conservation Board had previously issued a permit to authorize that redevelopment. However, when the property was inspected by my office, in order to see whether or not we could close out the permit and issue a certificate of wetland compliance, we found that significant modifications had been made to the residence that needed to be legalized and authorized by this board. The Board of Trustees had issued a permit to allow for a bulkhead reconstruction. Those activities had resulted in significant disturbance of covenanted, naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffers, whose establishment was a condition of prior Conservation Board permits. So we advised the applicant that they needed to submit a new application to this board in order to rectify the matter of the disturbance in order to legalize the completed construction. Although we had significant concerns about the backfill for the bulkhead, when I recently visited the property, I found that as a consequence of wind and water erosion, that the impacts of the backfill had significant significantly lessen the buffer by planting grass is consistent with my requirements. While there was a need to replant portions of the buffer and also to remove an unauthorized hard surface walkway within the buffer, the applicant has since complied with my request and completed that reclamation. So although the project was modified, its impacts are being sufficiently mitigated by the establishment of these restored buffers. So there are no other outstanding issues at this property. We do have sufficient information in order to make a determination. As such, I'm recommending that the public hearing requirement be waived.
Motion to waive the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor of waiving the public hearing, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye.
George Hine, aye.
Now, Jerry, I.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
Next application is A019073, Blair Meziboff and Jenna Klein.
This application relates to a property at 8 Jagger Lane in the hamlet of West Hampton. The proposed action is classified as type 2 action pursuant to seeker. There is a preliminary advisory report on file. We're fortunate to have with us this afternoon the architect for the project and the owners of the property as well. The parcel is characterized by a small one-story residence. The applicant had commenced improvements to that residence, including conversion of a front porch area to living area, and had also commenced work on a rear porch area. As a consequence of that commencement, without the required approvals, the landowner did receive a notice violation. The applicant, as you can see by the survey, is seeking approval to retain the existing residence, but to elevate the house so it's FEMA compliant, and also to expand the house in the front and rear, as well as to build a swimming pool and various deck areas. There is an existing sanitary system that's located close to the wetlands. The wetlands consist of town and state regulated tidal wetlands, primarily reedgrass marshes and high marsh. Those wetlands act as an essential tributary to the Mauritius Bay. The house that exists on the parcel today could be characterized as being pre-existing non-conforming in that it doesn't comply with the minimum required 100-foot wetland construction and 75-foot natural buffer setback requirements as set forth in the permit issuance standards in Chapter 325. I have asked that the applicant consider alternatives to the current construction plan. I have first asked that the applicant may want to consider demolition and reconstruction of the residence. The reason I made that suggestion is that portions of the house including, among others, the rear porch area has significantly deteriorated, and that it may make sense, a lot more sense, just to build a new house at this location rather than renovate and expand upon this house. That being said, as the applicant's proposal is to expand upon the existing residence rather than rebuild, I did offer the applicant some suggestions for project modifications. Those recommendations were made in order to make this project plan more environmentally compatible and consistent with the wetland permit issuance standards. As the board knows, where you can't meet the required wetland setbacks, the law asks that the applicant undertake a practicable alternatives analysis in order to see whether or not, upon redesign of the project, the wetland setbacks and naturally vegetated buffers could be increased in size and thereby maximized. The applicant is currently only proposing a 25-foot wide naturally vegetated buffer as opposed to the required 75-foot buffer. The changes that I'm recommending, if indeed the applicant wants to retain and elevate and expand upon the existing house, are somewhat minor. If you look at the southeast corner of the house, you'll see what's identified as a porch area. The applicant is looking to convert that area to a living space. Upon inspecting the property, I found that that structure is open and exposed and in a significantly deteriorated state. It's within close proximity to wetlands. So if indeed the residence was expanded to create a master bedroom, which is currently proposed in that area, essentially that porch footprint would need to be reconstructed. As you can also see on the survey, there's a minor addition that's proposed on the east side of the house. There's an addition on the landward side of the house. The pool, as proposed, is located approximately 97 feet from wetlands and is currently less than 20 feet from the proposed innovative alternative on-site wastewater treatment system. So I have asked that the applicant consider reducing the footprint of the house, the pool, not only to provide a minimum 20-foot setback from the septic system as required by the Suffolk County Department of Health Services, but I've also asked that the pool be reduced in size in order to accommodate a minimum 100-foot wetland construction setback. I've also asked that the applicant give consideration to creation of an expansive buffer area. The advisory permit describes that buffer area, which would extend within close proximity to the planned swimming pool. It would require that the shed, which is already being relocated, that it be sited further landward. The buffer would come within, at its close point, about 5 to 10 feet from the east side of the house. And then at the northeast corner of the house, it would angle to the northwest, with the goal being to try and create an average overall buffer width of 75 feet, which the law requires when you can establish a straightforward 75-foot buffer. So as indicated by the advisory report, This is an application for which significant additional information is needed from the applicant in order to make a determination. As such, I'm recommending that a public hearing be held. As indicated, the applicant's architect and the landowners are with us this afternoon, so I'm not sure whether or not they've asked to speak as part of this preliminary review. I know that it's not standard practice for the board to entertain comments from the public as part of the preliminary review, but they are present with us tonight for this application.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to hear any testimony, but we can certainly schedule a public hearing.
Yes, we would like to speak.
Unfortunately, this isn't the forum for your testimony. It's at the public hearing that we listen to your testimony. This is just whether or not to hold a hearing.
Well, first, for the record, I'd like to state that that survey that was presented by Mr. Shea was dated 2015. I don't know if he's trying to use that as an example, but we have submitted significant documents since then and showed a total different site plan. I don't know if Mr. Shea has reviewed that, but we've addressed all the comments that we recently got from the board during this process over the last 6 months. So I don't know if those letters are what he's presenting here, but it totally seems like he's stating something that just doesn't apply to what we're proposing.
First of all, could you state your name and address for the record? I didn't hear you do that. And also, we don't, this is the first time we've seen this application, is tonight's meeting. So.
Okay, my name's Eric J. Pelletier, architect, 5 Wesley Court, Huntington, New York. And I represent the owners, which are here present also. But my question to Mr. Shea is, does he have our recent site plan submittals? And is that what, that is not the survey. That's from 2019. We've submitted significant changes since then. That's showing a proposed 2-story house. So, I mean, I think that's the question we have to know. Is this what he's presenting?
All right, I'd be happy to respond to that question. It's Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. The survey that you're seeing as visual is indeed an outdated survey. It's not the most up-to-date survey and site plan that has been provided by the applicant. The preliminary advisory report, which is on file, does reference the most recent submittals on part of the architect, and my recommendations are based upon the most recent submittals. Just for the board's information, the applicant, since the application was first made, received several notices of incomplete application. So the site plan and survey did indeed change significantly since the start of that process. And again, the survey that you're seeing before you is not the most recent survey or site plan. As indicated, contrary to that survey, the applicant is seeking to retain the existing house and elevate the house, and is seeking approval of minor additions, seeking to convert portions of the existing footprint to living area. If you look at that survey, the detached garage is no longer part of the applicant's plan. The proposed pool has been shifted eastward in order to allow for installation of the IA or WTS in that location. So to answer the architect's questions, as confirmed by my preliminary advisory report, All of my comments in that report and recommendations are indeed based upon the most recent site plan submittals by the applicant. And if we do have opportunity to hold a public hearing on this application, those most recent site plan drawings will be presented to the board at that hearing.
So, can I respond?
You may respond. Let's not get into the details of the application so much as the procedure.
Okay, that's what we're trying to understand here. We've made our submittals. We believe we were conforming, and we can understand his comments, but are we not looking or addressing the site plans that we're proposing? I mean, I find that rather strange to do. That's not the second document you put up isn't our site plan either, or our survey. What you were recommending is additional setbacks from the wetlands. Am I correct on what I'm hearing?
Just to respond to that, Marty Shea, I'm only recommending a slight shifting of the swimming pool. I'm recommending that the plans for elevation in the home and expansion be approved with the exception of the planned master bedroom area in the southeast corner of the footprint of the existing former porch area. That porch area, most of its exterior walls are gone based upon my inspection. It's what remains of the structure is being held up by some hastily installed wood posts and some concrete footings. In the interest of maximizing the setbacks, I'm recommending that that portion, that intended conversion of that southeast porch area, that be abandoned. Acknowledging that that project change would result in loss of needed living space. You may want to look at an opportunity to include second floor living area as part of the elevation and renovation of the residence. It would be difficult to expand the house beyond the other minor addition that's proposed on the east side of the house because of its close proximity to wetlands. So, you know, I'm happy to work with the landowners and with yourself, Eric, in order to look at other possible options. There are, you know, two ways we can proceed on this. We can potentially postpone a decision on whether or not to schedule a hearing in order to give you additional time to evaluate your options and to potentially forward revised plans to meet for review. Or we can schedule a hearing at this time, and at the hearing, you'll have a full opportunity to make a presentation to the board.
Well, I think it makes sense that we should address your concerns. Would like to schedule the public hearing only, but the key is can we get a review from you before the public hearing, or are we fixed in time here?
The review, my review is fully contained in my preliminary advisory report. If you take the opportunity to review that report, it's quite detailed in terms of characterization of the history of the project and the site conditions with regards to the possible practicable alternatives that could be considered, and with regards to a recommended covenanted naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer for the site. Of course, when you read that preliminary advisory report, if you or the landowners have questions, please email me. My office is working remotely 100%, so there's no opportunity to meet with us at a town hall. But if you email me, I'd be happy to discuss the recommendations further. My interest, of course, is to find a way to approve a project plan for the site that's very similar to what you have in mind, but acknowledging the stringent wetland permit issuance standards. I'm just looking to explore options that might make the project more compatible with wetlands protection. So it would seem best to schedule a public hearing at this time. In the interim, feel free to communicate back and forth with me, as I'm always happy to work closely with you in evaluating options and working out a mitigation plan for presentation to the board at the public hearing.
Yes, we would like to work with you. But my first question, or my question is, did you issue that report that you mentioned?
Yes, I did. It was emailed to the, who's ever down as the agent.
Recently? Since
Yeah, I think Karina, perhaps you can speak to that.
I can check
I
right
don't,
now.
I know the landowners are with us here tonight.
Yeah, Mr. Shea, thank you.
A copy of that advisory report.
I don't think we've ever seen it.
Yeah, I got
haven't
emailed.
received anything. But we want to work with you on whatever we need to do and revising anything we need to do.
Sounds
Absolutely.
great.
But we haven't
What
received
we
anything.
will do is, in the interim, while we're waiting on the hearing, we'll make sure that report gets emailed to you, Eric, as well as to the landowners. I know that the agent had changed. I don't have the actual report in front of me. I can confirm at this time as to the report was emailed to. Typically, it goes to the agent as identified on the application.
Okay, and Mr. Shea, if possible, I know our Eric just mentioned the public hearing. If we can make revisions and get them back to you and not do the public hearing, we're happy to comply with anything that satisfies the committee. I mean, we'd be apt.
The way it changed.
I'm sorry. That's great. What we may want to opt to do then is to postpone a decision on whether or not to go to a hearing until the next Conservation Board meeting, which is 2 weeks from tonight. It's May 27, and that'll give you full opportunity to work closely with me.
Thank you.
See whether we can address the outstanding issues and avoid the need to go to a public hearing.
That means a lot.
Yeah, thank
we
you
really,
so
really
much.
appreciate it. That's what we would love to do.
Yes, I'll look for the email.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Sorry that took time.
So, at this point, it seems prudent then for us to adjourn this hearing for 2 weeks.
Well, not the hearing.
No, I'm sorry, this preliminary review for 2 weeks. And in that interim time, resolution to the outstanding issues that you bring up, Marty, may be resolved, in which case at the next meeting, we can waive the public hearing and issue a permit the following meeting in 1 month.
Marty?
Now,
Marty?
I
Next
must
question,
also,
Marty?
I must also say one more thing, and that is if the outstanding issues cannot be resolved, then we will need to schedule a public hearing, and then that will delay the process. the alternative is to schedule a public hearing now for, it wouldn't happen the next meeting, but it could be the following meeting. But that would, if you resolve all the issues, that would delay the issuance of a permit for 2 weeks. So those are the two options that you folks can think about in the next moment, which, how pressed you are in time.
Very. That's our home.
Yeah, we won't have a home by August.
So we want to do
Okay.
everything we can to satisfy.
Then let's waive the public hearing, move forward. You guys can work together, and then the next meeting we'll attempt to waive the public hearing. I'm sorry, we'll adjourn the public hearing. At the next meeting, we'll attempt to waive it.
Thank
Thank
I'm
you.
not the public hearing. I'm sorry, I said the public hearing again. I meant the preliminary.
We're with you. We're going to comply. We're complying with anything you need us to
Anything. We
read.
will.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a
Thank you.
motion to adjourn this secret review and preliminary review for 2 weeks?
Motion to adjourn the secret review until May 27th.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Ryan, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
Now, Jerry, I.
All right. Thank you. Everybody said aye. Thank you. And
Thank you,
we'll,
everybody.
we'll see you folks in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Corina would like to be heard.
I just want to verify the email because it was sent out on Thursday. The address on the application is chris@bridgehampton.
That's the,
That's the previous
that's the
owner.
previous owner.
Okay, so then I'll get in touch with you after the meeting to get the correct email address.
Thank you, Corina.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, anything we can do, we're going to do.
Okay.
So, thank you, guys. Thank you very much, Corina.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next application is A190082 Rawson Road Association, Inc.
I recommend Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst. I recommend that you consider this application together with the phone application as the work that would occur on these properties is similar in nature, and the properties abut each other.
Then I'll introduce that second application too, so we can do them simultaneously. And that second one is A020010 MIR Noyak Realty LLC.
Okay, the Rawson Road Associates property is a privately owned park area and open space within the Rawson Road subdivision. There is an access strip that comes off Rawson Road, leads to a bluff line where there's a Bluff Beach access stairway that goes down to the beach area. The Rawson Road Community Association owns the entire stretch of beach along this bayfront. They had initially made application in order to reconstruct the stairway, as the stairway was heavily damaged as a result of bluff erosion and winter storm events, such that the stairway at this present time is not safe and either needs to be repaired or reconstructed. When we initially considered this application, we found that a significant amount of boulders had been placed along the bluff toe and upper beach, and that as seen on the visual, those boulders form a continuum that runs along the upper beach for a significant distance. When we looked at the prior Conservation Board history, we found that the board had allowed the use of some boulders in years past as part of a shoreline stabilization plan. However, upon visiting the site, we found that the association had installed significant supplemental boulders whose presence now needed to be addressed and rectified as part of the application to reconstruct the stairway. We found that the boulders also extended upon the MIR Noack Realty property, which, as you can see, is a residentially developed piece. That property also has a bluff beach access stairway that was significantly damaged by bluff erosion and storm events, and thus needs to be significantly repaired or reconstructed. When the applicant's agent changed so that the agent now is Land Use Ecological Services for both of these applications. So because the unauthorized rock placement extends on both of these properties, we asked Land Use Ecological Associates that they address the boulders as part of their two separate applications for repair or reconstruction of the walkways. There is a preliminary advisory report on file for both of these applications. The actions classified as an unlisted action pursuant to seeker in Chapter 157 of the Town Code. As such, the applicant has provided necessary seeker short environmental assessment form Part 1, and my office will be drafting Parts 2 and 3 so that the board can make the necessary seeker determination on these applications. As the Conservation Board typically has significant concerns about shore armoring, and particularly placement of large quantities of boulder along the shoreline because of the adverse impacts that those boulders can have on tidal wetlands, inclusive of the beach and the bluff area. My advisory reports provide a host of recommendations in terms of practicable alternatives that need to be explored in terms of shore stabilization, a more naturalized plan for shore stabilization that would allow for retention of some of the existing boulders, but would call for removal of a large quantity of the boulders and for the use of cut trees and brush, sand backfill, and native revegetation in order to stabilize that area. Land Use Ecological Services, upon receiving my combined advisory report, which recommends that a joint public hearing be held, expressed concern because they felt that requiring the necessary additional information for the property of MIR Noack Realty would take considerable more time than providing necessary information for the Boston Road Associates property. So while they agree that it makes sense to consider any shore stabilization for both properties simultaneously, their preference is that we actually schedule and hold separate public hearings for these two applications. The association this week has indicated that they are concerned about the delays in review of the shore stabilization measures, that'll result in needed closure of the the stairway on the park area for a good part of the summer, thereby hindering shorefront access by residents in the Ross and Road community. Upon looking at the stairway, it looked like the stairway could actually be partially reconstructed rather than completely redone. It is a wooden stairway, so in the event that the association decides to completely reconstruct that stairway, I did ask that they build a light penetrable deck stairway supported by untreated wood posts. But I did offer as an option that rather than demolish the whole stairway and replace the entire set of stairs, that at this time, in order to get that stairway open for the summer, that they install about 6 or 7 new pilings in the existing bluff face, that they retain the existing wood stairway and make some modest additional improvements in terms of replacement of some of the deck boards and joists. And I've indicated to the applicant that notwithstanding my recommendation that a public hearing be held for both these applications, not only to consider reconstruction of the stairways, but to consider options in terms of shoreline stabilization, that they file for a separate administrative wetland permit that will allow for partial reconstruction of the stairway and the park in the park area. They are very pleased with that suggestion and will be filing a separate administrative wetland permit application simply to partially reconstruct the existing damaged stairs in the park area. Then they will await the public hearings in order at that time to possibly consider replacement of the entire stairway and shoreline stabilization. So I did indicate to the to Land Use Ecological Services that the board would be acting on a resolution, a joint resolution to schedule the hearings. But because Charles Bowman of that firm has asked that we hold the hearing separately, I did indicate that the public hearing notices will be separate and that the board can hold separate hearings, but that at the same time I recommended that they both be held on the night of June 24, 2020, in the event that Land Use Ecological Services decides it's beneficial to them to have the hearings held jointly and to provide joint presentations. So beyond that, there is significant additional information that's needed to make a determination on these applications. So there is a resolution before you in order to schedule public hearings.
Motion to schedule a public hearing for June 24th, 2020.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye.
Rickenback, aye.
George Trine, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
Anna Jerry, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
Thank you. So the next preliminary review of secret determination is A020011, Peter, Paul, and John Engster.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town again. This application results to an existing residentially developed property at 51 Clearview Drive, Noyak. The applicant subject property contains a bulkhead, a bluff, and beach along the Little Peconic Bay. The application has been made in order to legalize the reconstruction of the bulkhead at the property. The bulkhead reconstruction needs to be authorized by the town and Conservation Board rather than the Board of Trustees, because the Little Peconic Bay is state waters and the trustees do not own the bay bottom. There was formerly a timber bulkhead on the property that failed. That was reconstructed around 2001. There is now a vinyl bulkhead in place, and that needs to be legalized. When the bulkhead was reconstructed, they added a wooden cap. They used treated lumber. The wood cap was heavily damaged by storm events and needs to be replaced. The applicant has agreed to replace that wood bulkhead cap with an untreated lumber cap. The property does have some history before this board. The board had acted on a prior application for removal of some structures and installation of a bluff access walkway. That permit was conditioned upon establishment of a covenanted naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance non-fertilization buffer that, as depicted on the survey, extends 50 feet landward of the bulkhead. The applicant has agreed with all the recommended mitigative measures. This is an application for which we have sufficient information to make a determination. As such, I'm recommending that the hearing requirement be waived.
Motion to waive public hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Hein, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
Anna Fury, aye.
Thank you. A020014, Jacqueline Monet.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This application, as you can see in the aerial, relates to an existing residentially developed property. It's located at 21 Seatuck Lane in the hamlet of Remsenburg, Spion. The property is bulkheaded along a yacht basin or tributary to Mauritius Bay. It does contain town and state regulated tidal wetlands. As you can see in the aerial, the southerly abutting property is not bulkheaded and contains extensive naturally vegetated tidal wetlands that extend landward of the bulkhead on the subject property. The house located in an area that suffered some significant damage during Superstorm Sandy. I had issued a prior permit to allow for elevation of the residence and elevation of the deck in order to make the house FEMA compliant. The house today is compliant. However, when the deck was elevated, it had to be reconstructed and was reconfigured. So the application has been made in order to legalize the reconfigured deck on the seaward side of the house. If you were to visit the property, you would see that along the bulkhead, there's a significant amount of wood debris that's been at the site since Hurricane Sandy. I have recommended that the impacts of the deck reconstruction be mitigated by establishment of a 15-foot wide covenanted naturally vegetated wetland, non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer. That buffer would extend 15 feet landward of the bulkhead. The wood walk is not actually there. Today it was destroyed by Sandy. I've asked that the wood debris be removed from the recommended buffer area and that the buffer area be restored by planting native vegetation. There is a swing set that doesn't show in the survey that just needs to be shifted just a little bit further landward. The applicant has also, consistent with my recommendations, installed subsurface drainage chambers for a combination of runoff. This is an application for which we have sufficient information to make a determination. The action is a type 2 action pursuant to seeker, so it's not subject to seeker review. Accordingly, I've recommended that the public hearing requirement be waived.
Is there a motion to waive the public
Move the
hearing?
public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Hein, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
And now Jerry, I.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
A 020016, Leonard Wadler and Al
Marty
Barrett.
Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. The Wadler property is located at 182 Old Mill Road in the hamlet of Watermill. As indicated by the aerial photograph, it contains town regulated freshwater wetlands consisting of a pond and associated wet deciduous woods that are part of the Mill Creek and Greater Mill Pond and Mecox Bay system. The applicant had formally received an administrative wetland permit from me to construct an in-ground pool on the south side of the existing residence. That permit was conditioned upon establishment of a covenanted wetland preservation area, inclusive of all wetlands, as well as upon creation of a 75-foot wide covenanted naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer. The issuance of the permit was conditioned upon the applicant coming forward with the necessary revised surveys and covenant. Rather than go that route, the applicant, I found upon inspection, had commenced construction of the pool. The applicant, after the administrative wetland permit was issued, the applicant decided they wanted to expand upon that work, that they wanted to construct a pool patio and outdoor shower area on the east side of the residence. I found that that construction would be located within 100 feet of freshwater wetlands to the east on property owned by the Union Free School District. The applicant had initially appealed my wetland determination with regards to those freshwater wetlands. They had not actually filed a formal appeal application. I had requested that they submit a wetland boundary flagging application. They submitted it. I had requested permission from the school district to go on their property for the purposes of flagging the wetlands, so that the applicant's surveyor could pick up that line and show the setbacks from the planned outdoor shower and patio area. In the interim, the landowner came forward and met with me and said that notwithstanding his agent's appeal of my finding the wetlands on the abutting property to the east, he wanted to proceed with getting approvals for the patio and outdoor shower. I recommended that he file a new Conservation Board wetland permit application, and indicated that if he filed that application, there would no longer be a need to flag and have surveyed the wetlands on the approximate school district property to the east. It was upon receipt of the Conservation Board application, when I went to the property to meet with the applicant, that I found that the foundation of the pool was already in. I have since advised the applicant that if he comes forward with the required revised survey and covenant pursuant to the special conditions of the administrative wetland permit, that he could complete construction of the pool at this time, but that he needed to wait on a Conservation Board wetland permit in order to proceed with the patio and outdoor shower construction. So the applicant has agreed to go that route. This is an application for which we have sufficient information to make a determination. As such, I'm recommending that the public hearing requirement be waived.
Motion to waive the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye. George Heine, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
And Ellen Jerry, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
We'll move on now for resolution issue modification, A019124, Diane Ardolino.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town again. This application relates to a property at 160 Point Road in the hamlet of Flanders. Property contains town-regulated tidal wetlands. The applicant had previously sought and obtained a conditional approval in order to build a single-family residence on the property and to install an IAOWTS. The applicant had agreed to establish covenanted buffers and wetland preservation areas as a condition of that permit. However, the Suffolk County Department of Health Services required that the IAOWTS be recited on the property, and that proposed private well, that it be located within the bounds of the required covenanted buffer. My office has no issue with the recommendations of the County Health Department, nor with the requirement that the well be installed within the buffer. I have advised the applicant that the covenant will need to contain special language in order to allow for that well installation. The survey before you shows the extensive buffer that's being required on this property, which will be sufficient to mitigate potential adverse wetland impacts. So there is no aspect of this application that would require that you revisit the issuance of the original conditional approval. The changes to the project will not result in new adverse wetland impacts. As such, I'm recommending that you approve the requested modifications to the conditional approval so that we can move forward with issuance of the permit and review of the draft covenant, and allow the landowner to go forward with building a house on this property.
Motion to issue the modification. Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Diane Ardolino for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, sorry.
And Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye. George Heine, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
And Ellen Jerry, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
CB 1500092, Barry Ulrich and Joanne Ulrich.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This application, as indicated by the aerial, relates to a property in Noyak that has town-regulated freshwater wetlands. The board had issued a permit in order to allow for redevelopment of this property. Upon inspection, to see whether or not we could issue a certificate of wetland compliance, we found that there were minor modifications that were made to the patio, outdoor shower, gas line, paver walks, and barbecue. that required that a modified wetland permit be issued. This, I believe, would be at least the second modification to the existing permit. The modification would not result in any new adverse wetland impacts. And there's no reason to revisit the issuance of the original permit. As such, I'm recommending that you act on the resolution to approve the modified permit.
Motion to issue the modification.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Barry Ulrich and Joanne Ulrich for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Larry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Hein, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
And Jerry, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
CB 19069 Quinn Murphy. That's the last modification. Marty, the Quinn Murphy.
The last modification should be Quinn Murphy.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. The Quinn Murphy modification, as you can see, it relates to an existing residentially developed property. The board had issued a permit in order to allow for construction of a pool and deck area. That permit was conditioned upon establishment of an extensive covenanted naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer, as well as upon extensive native revegetation. The applicant had recently indicated that he needed to install a new propane tank as an emergency, as the house lost its heat. While I did allow the applicant to go forward with the installation of the propane tank so that they could continue to live in the home, I did advise the applicant that he needed to get a modified permit. He's filed the subject application. The installation of the propane tank is outside of any of the restricted covenanted areas and is not going to result in any new adverse wetland impacts. Accordingly, the resolution before you is to allow for issuance of the necessary modified wetland permit in order to authorize and legalize the propane tank.
Motion to issue the modification.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Quinn Murphy for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Larry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Hein, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
And Jerry, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
Public hearings, A 019099, Michael McLarney and Emily McLarney, and the applicant requests an adjournment. Is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak on this application?
Can you tell me the date of their request?
Do we have a suggested date, either Marty or Karina?
It's in your packet. Let me just pull it up. Hold on a second. September 9th.
Okay. Don't think we have any.
September 9th?
September 9th, okay. Motion to adjourn this hearing until September 9th, 2020.
All in favor? Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Hein, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
And Jerry, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
And now we need to reschedule public hearings that are on the agenda. I had, just for your information, I was contacted in regards to one of these applications. It's down the list a bit. Michael Rosenberg and Michael Spiker. They requested that they would like to have the hearing date as early as they can. So I just give you that information, but we need to go down through the list. Okay, so Karina, you've got them all before us. We
Yeah, I was
can,
thinking if we had to reschedule so many, were they going to conflict with each other?
They're actually on for the next hearing meeting, June 10th. That's the
okay,
soonest.
so that will satisfy their request. And Karina, you just put something on before us. And it looks like you have suggested dates for all of the ones that are in need of rescheduling. So
Yes, and
so let's just go down. We'll go in order of the agenda. A170121, Robert Latch. Is there a motion to adjourn this hearing to? There it is. It's on July 8th.
Motion to adjourn to July 8th.
Second,
All in favor? Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Hearn, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
Anne Algieri, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
A180346, Max New York Management LLC.
June 10th.
Is there a motion to adjourn for June 10th.
Second.
All in favor? Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Hearn, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
Anne Algieri, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
A180573, Jennifer A. Miller, Elizabeth M. Trapp, Erica L. Orozco as trustees for the Theodore J. Sider Irrevocable Trust.
August 26th.
Motion to schedule public hearing on August 26th for Theodore Sider.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Hearn, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
Anne Algieri, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
A180673, Lynn Nara Revocable Trust. And that's July 20th.
22nd.
Motion to adjourn to July 22nd, 2020.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Hearn, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
Anne Algieri, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
A190012, Janice Myers. The applicant requests adjournment to July 8th.
I don't see that listed on the July.
Now, let's see. That's what it says on my agenda.
I have it on August 26th.
It had to be moved to August 26th to accommodate the new hearings.
Okay. So let's do August 26th on that one.
Motion to adjourn to August 26th.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Hearn, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
Algieri, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
A019090, Frank Franzese.
July 22nd.
Motion to adjourn to July 22nd, 2020.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Hearn, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
Anne Algieri, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
A019104, 19 Shinnecock Road, LLC.
August 12th.
August 12th.
Motion to adjourn to August 12th, 2020.
2020. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Heine, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
Anna Algieri, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
A019117, Michael Rosenberg and Michael Speaker. June 10th.
Motion to adjourn to June 10th, 2020.
Second,
All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Heine, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
Anna Algieri, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
A020005, 17 Bishop LLC.
July 8th.
Motion to adjourn to July 8th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Heine, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
Anna Algieri, aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye.
And the last one is A020013, Sylvia Hemingway.
Motion to adjourn till August the 12th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye.
Tom Rickenback, aye.
George Heine, aye.
Jeremiah Collins, aye.
Algieri,
Mike Tessitore, aye.
That concludes the agenda. Is there anything else that needs to come before our meeting today?
Nice to see everybody again.
Yes.
Yes.
Been a while.